The church was silent. So silent that I could hear my own heartbeat thudding against the lace of my wedding gown. Do you, Ava Johnson, take Ethan Walker? Before Pastor Lewis could finish, the tall wooden doors at the back of the church burst open. Every head turned. A woman in a red silk dress stood there, heels clicking against the marble floor as she walked down the aisle with the confidence of someone who owned the place. Her lipstick matched her dress. Her eyes burned like she had something to prove. She stopped halfway down and said in a loud, trembling voice, "He can't marry you, Ava. Because he already promised me he would." Gasps filled the room. My bouquet slipped from my hands, petals scattering across the aisle. Ethan's face drained of color as the woman turned toward him. "I'm Vanessa," she said, her voice sharp as glass. "You didn't tell her about us, did you?" Every whisper, every shocked face blurred around me. My dream wedding, the one I'd spent 2 years planning, had just turned into a public nightmare. But what no one knew was that I wasn't about to break down. Not yet. Because I already suspected this might happen. And I had a plan. Rewind 6 months earlier. I was sitting in my small apartment, staring at the email that changed everything. "Ethan Walker wants to meet you for a business consultation." At first, it was purely professional. Ethan was running a new branch of his father's company in Atlanta. I was a freelance event planner, trying to build my reputation. He needed someone to coordinate a major launch event. He was smooth, too smooth. From his deep laugh to the way he looked at me when I spoke. Ethan knew how to make a woman feel like the only person in the room. We started dating after the event. Within a year, he proposed with a diamond ring that could blind someone under the sun. My mom cried tears of joy. My best friend, Jenna, screamed loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. Everything felt perfect. At least. But love has a strange way of hiding lies behind pretty moments. Ethan was loving, but secretive. His phone was always locked. He took business calls at midnight. Sometimes he came home smelling like a perfume I didn't own. When I asked, he'd smile and say, "Babe, you're overthinking again. You know I'd never hurt you." And I believed him. Because love makes you want to. Until the night I found a gold bracelet under the seat of his car. It wasn't mine. When I asked about it, Ethan's expression froze for half a second before he chuckled. "Oh, that? It's my assistant's. She must have dropped it during work." But the look in his eyes said something different. The night before the wedding. The night before our wedding, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of my hotel room, feeling that strange weight in my chest again. Something was wrong. At 1:47 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. "You don't deserve what's coming tomorrow." No name. No context. Just those words. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. I showed it to Ethan the next morning while we were getting ready separately. He brushed it off with that fake, reassuring smile. "Probably just spam, babe. Don't let anything ruin your day." But something inside me whispered that it wasn't spam. So I did something most brides wouldn't do. I hired a private investigator. Back to the wedding, the woman in red returns. Now standing at the altar, watching Vanessa march toward me, I realized everything my gut had been warning me about was true. Vanessa reached the front and held up her phone, showing a picture. Ethan half naked, asleep in a hotel bed. Her hand was resting on his chest. The audience gasped. My mother stood frozen in disbelief. Ethan tried to snatch the phone, stammering, "This is out of context, Ava. She's lying." Vanessa laughed, a cold sound that echoed through the hall. "Out of context? Baby, that's from last weekend." Tears burned in my eyes, but I didn't cry. Instead, I looked at the pastor and said calmly, "Let her finish my vows." Everyone froze. Vanessa blinked. "What? You came here to take my place, didn't you? Then finish the vows." I smiled tightly. "Let's hear what kind of promises he makes to you." The room fell dead silent. Even the camera crew stopped recording. Ethan's jaw dropped. Vanessa hesitated, then slowly began repeating the pastor's words mockingly, each vow twisted with venom. "Do you, Ethan Walker, promise to be faithful?" she said, smirking. He said nothing. The humiliation painted across his face was everything I needed in that moment. But that was only the beginning. Because I wasn't going to just expose him. I was going to ruin him. And Vanessa too. They thought crashing my wedding would destroy me. They had no idea I was already 2 steps ahead. As Vanessa continued her mock vows, I signaled to the event coordinator quietly standing by the exit. It was time. The projector behind us flickered to life. The lights dimmed. And suddenly, on the giant wedding screen, photos and recordings started playing. Evidence the private investigator had sent me that morning. Ethan's lies. Vanessa's betrayal. And every dirty secret they thought they'd hidden. The guests gasped again. Ethan turned toward me, eyes wide with fear. "Ava, what did you do?" I leaned close enough for only him to hear and whispered, "Just giving you what you deserve." Then I walked away. While the church erupted in chaos behind me, the church doors slammed shut behind me. People were shouting. My mother was crying. Ethan was shouting my name like a drowning man grabbing for air. I walked through the crowd with my veil dragging on the floor, but I did not run. I did not scream. I walked out like a queen leaving a bad play. Outside, the cold air hit my face. I could hear sirens in the distance. Someone filmed me on their phone. A child pointed and asked their mother, "Why is the bride leaving?" The mother hugged the child and looked away. In that moment, everything that smelled like a perfect future, the cake, the flowers, the band, felt like ashes. But my chest felt strangely calm. The plan had begun, and revenge does not need panic. It needs patience. I got into my car alone. Jenna, my best friend, had collapsed in the church foyer. My mother had fainted. The guests were still whispering, some in pity, some in judgment. The photographers took 1,000,000 pictures. I could already feel the world turning those pictures into a story I would not control. Ethan called me more than once. I let it go straight to voicemail. His voicemail was full of apologies and promises and panic. I listened to one message and then deleted them all. When I pulled into the hotel driveway, the private investigator, Marcus, was waiting in the lobby. He looked like a tired soldier. He handed me a thick folder with printouts, receipts, and screenshots. His eyes were kind but hard. "You got everything?" I asked. "Everything you asked for." He nodded. "And more." I opened the folder. There were bank transfers, hotel invoices, text messages, and voice notes. There were photos of Ethan and Vanessa at restaurants, laughing together. There was a receipt for an expensive bracelet, the one I found in his car. There was even a copy of a deed to a condo in another part of town that had Vanessa's name attached to it for 1 month. My fingers shook. This was the proof. Not just of a fling. Of a pattern. Of money moving around to hide things. "You sure you want to do this?" Marcus asked quietly. "Once this goes public, it's hard to take it back." "I'm sure." I folded the papers and put them back in the folder. I didn't come here to be a sob story. I came here to finish what I started. Public or private, they're going to pay. Build up, the first moves. First, I called my lawyer. I did not make threats. I asked questions. We talked about prenups. We talked about joint accounts. I learned that Ethan had set up most things to protect his family name. He thought only a man of money could hide everything with lawyers and contracts. But money leaves footprints. Men who spend on other women often forget paper, receipts, hotel invoices, messages. I had them all. Second, I called the wedding vendors. I canceled the caterer from delivering to the venue for the reception. I instructed the band not to play. I told the florist to return the bouquets. I told the cake company to send the cake back. Some people cried that they had worked so hard. Others called me vindictive. Vindictive? Maybe. But when someone breaks your heart and treats your life like trash, revenge becomes the cost of dignity. That evening, we held a small gathering in my hotel room. It was not the reception I had imagined. It was a quiet circle of the people who truly mattered. My mother, Jenna, Marcus, and a few close friends. Jenna sat on the edge of the bed, still red-eyed and shaking. "You could have exploded in there," she said. "Why didn't you? Why didn't you scream?" "Because that would have made me small," I said. "I wanted control." We decided on our next moves like we were playing chess. Public exposure, yes. but not messy and angry. Calculated. Clean. Precise. Pacing. The plan unfolds. Night 1. I posted a short, calm message on my socials. Not an angry rant. Noche sob story. Just a picture of the altar, empty, with the words, "Truth matters. Everyone will hear it soon." I didn't tag Ethan. I didn't tag Vanessa. The message was enough to make people curious. The cameras came. Reporters started calling my phone. Day 2. I sent copies of the folder to Ethan's company legal team with a short note. "You should know what your partner is doing." The legal department called me, then their tone changed. They asked for meetings. They wanted to protect the company. Day 3. I reached out to Vanessa, through a lawyer. The letter said nothing mean. It simply asked for answers and proof. Vanessa's lawyer called back, rude and fast. They wanted me to stop. They threatened defamation. My lawyer smiled and said, "We have receipts." Journalists smelled blood and came crawling. But I controlled what they saw. I released pieces at a time. A photo, a message, an invoice. Each post was like a small flame. Together they made a fire. My post trended in Atlanta. People were talking. Some stood with me. Others called me greedy or dramatic. But the story spread. Ethan's father, the man who owned the company, called his son. That call was the first crack in Ethan's armor. Hello. My mother was sick from stress. She kept saying, "We wanted a happy life." My father called late at night, angry without knowing all the facts. For a moment, I felt like I had lost everything. The company placed Ethan on leave pending investigation. The news came out and the board issued a statement that they don't tolerate misconduct. Ethan's face on TV, pale and scared, was a sight I did not expect to savor. But I did. Vanessa's side came out angry and fought back. They painted me as a jealous bride who wanted attention. They dug into my past, old relationships, old mistakes. People sent messages telling me to shut up. One person called me a liar in all caps. I learned something important. Truth is not enough. People will believe what they want if you let them. You have to be louder, smarter, cleaner. Then Marcus found the twist. He called me late one night and said, "You were right to be quiet. This isn't just a fling. It's bigger." He sent me bank statements linking a shell company to Ethan's private card. Money moved from Ethan's account to a different business account, then to a hotel chain, and to Vanessa's temporary condo. There were cash withdrawals timed to match their meetings. "I can subpoena the accounts," Marcus said. "But you need to be ready. Once you do this, their lawyers will come at you like wolves." I didn't sleep for 3 nights. I stared at the statements until the numbers blurred. It was not just about love. It was about money being used to hide a relationship and to buy silence. If I exposed it, I could force a legal battle that would expose more than their affair. The couple's image, their business deals, and their friends would all come under the light. I realized then. Humiliation was one thing. Exposure was another. I could hurt Ethan's career, not just his pride. We set the trap carefully. Marcus would file subpoenas. My lawyer would prepare a civil suit for fraud and for emotional damages. We would contact investigative journalists who knew how to handle documents. We would do it publicly but with the right timing so the story could not be fought away with PR. We rehearsed our statements. We practiced calmness. We did not yell. We did not cry in front of cameras. We let facts speak. I also made a quieter move. I reached out to Ethan's mother. A woman I'd met at dinner once who had been kind to me. I told her gently that her son was in trouble, and that she deserved to know. Her silence was not guilt. It was shock. "Ava," she whispered, "I will not lose him to a lie." I did not argue. I only said, "I'm not here to take anyone from you, ma'am. I just want truth." Her name being on our side would shake the family tree. 2 days later, the local paper called and asked if I would meet them for an exclusive the next morning. They wanted to see the documents. Ethan's lawyer sent a polite, but threatening letter demanding I stop providing materials to anyone. Vanessa's lawyer called my phone so many times my ringtone burned my ear. That night, Jenna and I sat in my living room surrounded by unopened boxes from the canceled wedding. The cake topper, Two tiny porcelain figures stared at us like silent witnesses. I wrapped my hands around a mug and did not feel the warmth. Are you scared? Jenna asked. Terrified, I admitted, but scared in a clear way. This is what we planned. At 2:13 a.m. my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. A text flashed on the screen. Meet me at 3 a.m. at the 12th Street Bridge. Alone. If you want to end this quietly. I stared at the message. My heart thudded so hard I could feel it in my throat. The sender had masked their number. The timing, 3 a.m., was deliberate. The bridge was near a quiet part of town. The call sounded like a threat. It sounded like an offer. Jenna wanted to call Marcus. My fingers hovered over the screen. I knew walking into that meeting could change everything. It could be a trap. It could be the final piece that brought them down. Or it could be dangerous. I looked at the folder on the coffee table, the documents that could ruin lives. I looked at Jenna's worried face. I thought of my mother, still fragile. I thought of the cameras waiting at the press office in the morning. I shut my eyes. The plan had to keep moving. The next step had to be precise. At 2:58 am I opened my phone and typed 2 words, I'll come. Then I turned off the lights and walked out the back door. The night swallowed me whole. The bridge smelled like damp metal and old rain. Streetlights made long gold stripes on the river below. I stood with my coat tight around my shoulders and the folder of evidence tucked under my arm like a shield. A car rolled slowly across the bridge and stopped. A figure stepped out and moved toward me. For a second I thought it was a man coming to beat me. My heart jumped into my throat. Then the figure walked into the light. It was Ethan's brother, Marcus Walker. Not the private investigator Marcus, but Ethan's younger sibling. His face was pale and panicked. He looked like a man who had walked in the rain without an umbrella for a long time. You shouldn't be here, he whispered. Neither should you, I said. My voice felt small in the cold. Why are you here at 3 a.m., Marcus? Who sent you? He looked at me like he wanted to say everything and nothing all at once. Finally he blurted, they're scared. Ethan, Vanessa, they don't want this to come out. Dad wants to stop it. He called me. He asked me to beg you to drop it. To keep the family name quiet. I kept my face steady. And what did you tell him? Marcus swallowed. I told him I wouldn't lie for them. Not this time. But there's more. There's money moved to cover things you don't know about. If you push this, it won't just be a scandal. It will ruin people's lives. I thought if I came, maybe I could stop you. Maybe I could help. He reached into his pocket and handed me a small, folded paper. On it was an address and a single line. Safe deposit box, Oak and Pine Bank, box 402. The paper trembled in my hand. You sure this is real? I asked. Marcus nodded. I saw a ledger. I don't know everything, Ava. But I know enough. Please. Don't destroy the family. His eyes begged. I felt something strange. Pity? No. Anger. It was not my job to protect their family. They had tried to destroy mine. I don't want to destroy anyone, I said slowly. I want truth. If you have something to help, give it. If you're begging me to stop, that means they have something to hide. He looked like he might cry. They do. Ethan's name is tied to deals I don't understand. And Vanessa, she's not just a fling. She's part of a plan Dad set up to cover losses. I don't know how. I just know he moved money. The bridge felt smaller. The river sounded louder. I put the paper in my folder. Thank you, I said. Then I turned and walked away before he could change his mind. At dawn, the city felt new and tired at once. The world had no idea of my midnight meeting, and that was power. I drove to Oak and Pine Bank and walked in with a calm face. The clerk asked for my name. I lied. I used a pseudonym for the box rental. Something small and believable. The bank's camera watched me in a way that made me feel both safe and exposed. Box 402 was cold metal. Inside it was a small leather pouch, a stack of receipts, 2 USB drives, and a folded envelope. The receipts were for hotel rooms, cash advances, and a transfer labeled consulting fees that led to an address in Tennessee. The envelope had a single sheet. A printout of a marriage certificate. Not ours, but a false certificate that transferred property rights to a shell company. The USB drives were the dark things that made me nervous. Digital files can hide everything, but they can also prove everything. I brought everything to Marcus, my investigator, and we sat for hours going through each file. There were receipts that matched hotel stays in the same dates as the photos. There were wire transfers routed through 3 different companies to obscure the origin. There were names of people I did not know, accountants, shell companies, and a lawyer who had set up trust funds. One video file made me drop my coffee. It was a short clip from a hotel security camera. Ethan and Vanessa walked into a room. A third man followed behind them. He had a heavy gait and a face I recognized only because he sat on the company board, Mr. Halbert, a man known for silence and power. The video ended with Vanessa leaving alone, and Ethan handing an envelope to Halbert. The camera did not catch what was inside, but the timing matched the wire transfers. I knew it, Marcus said, voice low. They moved money. This isn't just love. This is cover-up. We began the legal motion. Marcus filed for subpoenas. My lawyer sent requests to the bank, to Halbert's firm, and to the hotel chains. The first responses were brick walls. Denials, requests for more time. Lawyers who smelled of expensive scotch and threats. But pressure works. The reporters who cared about truth began to ask better questions. The local newspaper, the Atlanta Ledger, put my name on the front page. The headline was careful, not a scream, just fact. Wedding scandal. Walker Air under investigation. The story had the safe deposit discovery in a paragraph no one expected. Ethan's father released a stiff statement. The company would cooperate with any legitimate inquiry and would not tolerate misconduct. But inside the company, panic buzzed like trapped bees. Vanessa disappeared for a while. Her social media went dark. Ethan tried calling everyone who mattered. He begged, bribed, and lied. The more he tried, the more his messages read like the notes of a sinking man. The first big legal win came when Halbert's email server, a chink in a strong armor, accidentally forwarded a conversation to the wrong address. The thread revealed talk of covering liabilities and moving assets to mitigate exposure. The phrase consulting fees appeared again, linked to dates of Vanessa's stays. That slip of a forwarded email made Halbert furious. He hired the best defense money could buy. But he also made a secret enemy. His arrogance told other board members they might be in trouble too. One afternoon, Ethan came to the building where I was working with a bouquet of cheap flowers and a face full of fake sorrow. He caught me in the lobby and called my name like a prayer. Ava, please. This has gone too far. We can fix this. I love you. I never meant to. He put the flowers into my hands. They smelled like a grocery store and guilt. I looked at him for a long minute, and then walked past him. I left the flowers on a bench and walked out. Cameras followed. His apology became a clip on morning shows. People watched and debated. Some said he was honest. Others said it was staged. Vanessa, meanwhile, hired a PR team and began her counterstroke. That same week a blog popped up with a curated tell-all that claimed Ethan had been lied to by a jealous ex, that I had planted evidence. The blog used anonymous sources and a lot of selective pictures. It tried to paint me as a bride who wanted fame. The plan was obvious. Muddy the water. Make the truth hard to find. We had to be cleaner. We released more document, but we did it measuredly. For each blog smear, we released a bank statement or an invoice. For each question, we had a paper trail. It was exhausting. It was humiliating. But it was working. The company called a public hearing for their own board, pretending to act in the public interest. The CEO promised transparency. Reporters were invited. The hearing was a theater of suits and smiles. I sat in the press area with Jenna at my side, both of us quiet. Marcus sat beside my lawyer. When Ethan came out to speak, his face was pale and he read a prepared statement about personal mistakes and regrets. He tried to sound contrite. Then Halbert stood. His voice was flat and cold. He announced that the company had discovered an internal theft, and that an internal audit was underway. He spoke in circles, never naming names, but the implication was clear. Money had been moved, and the company would pursue legal action. During the Q&A, a reporter asked, Mr. Halberd, can you confirm any personal connections between anyone under investigation and individuals outside the company? Halberd's smile vanished. His fingers tightened on the microphone. He said, "This company will not be dragged into private affairs. We will let the law speak." That was the company line. But behind those words, I could see fear. Fear that if the audit dug deeper, it would not stop at Ethan or Vanessa. It would reach investors, deals, and reputations. After the hearing, a man in a gray suit approached me quietly. He handed me a small card with an address and a time, midnight tonight. No name. The card smelled like a perfume I did not know. I looked at Jenna. She looked at me. The city lights felt like a stage. The card felt like another trap or another piece of the game. Back home, alone in my apartment, I found a note under my door. It read, "You're playing with fire, Ava. Stop before you get burned." No signature. No return. Ava. The note used my name like someone who knew how to taunt, someone close, someone dangerous. I thought of Ethan's family, Halberd, and the men who thought money could buy silence. I thought of Vanessa, bright and cruel and dangerous in a different way. Who sent the card? Halberd's people? Vanessa's team? Or someone else who wanted to steer me away? I slept for 2 hours and woke to a world that felt ready to collapse. My phone buzzed with messages, some supportive, some ugly. The media wanted more. The subpoenas were in motion. The bank had frozen a few accounts pending review. At noon, Marcus called and said, "They're moving. Halberd's people cleared a file from their server an hour ago. They know we're coming." "Then we move faster," I said. That night I dressed without thinking too much. Black boots, jeans, a jacket with a hood. I wanted to be unseen. I wanted to be ready. Midnight found me at the address on the card. An old warehouse by the river. The place smelled like dust and secrets. The door was heavy. I pushed it open. Inside, the lights were low. A single bulb swung from the ceiling. Men in suits sat around a table. In the center of the table lay envelopes, each one marked with a name. My name. Ethan's name. Vanessa's name. From the shadows a voice said, "You've been busy, Ava. But business is business. Sit." I stepped forward, the folder of evidence clutched tight, and answered, "I don't sit with liars." The voices around me laughed softly. Then someone switched on a lamp. And the man who stood up was not Halberd, not Ethan, not Marcus. It was a face I had seen once at a company dinner. A man who smiled like a judge and spoke like a lawyer. He held up an envelope and dropped it on the table. On the front, in large black letters, was a single line, "Choose." My chest tightened. The men in the room looked at me as if my next move would end more than a marriage. As if one word could topple a kingdom. I had a folder full of truth. They had envelopes full of threats. The choice felt like a blade. "Choose what?" I asked, voice steady but small. The man smiled. "Choose how this ends, Ava. For you, for them, for everyone." I looked at the envelope with my name, and felt the weight of everything that had happened. The truth. The lies. The people I loved. The people I'd lost. The room waited. The envelope trembled in front of me like a secret animal about to bite. My hand hovered. And then the lights went out.